How's it going, everyone? Tim Zanoni with the Shadow Consciousness Podcast, and today we have Ronnie Portillo on. And I met Ronnie through my partner Madison, who met him in a breathwork class when we were down in Vegas. And she was like, "Man, this guy had a lot of fucking live energy in him, and you need to meet him." And so I was like, "Yeah." I reached out to him and was able to join. He invited me to one of his men's circles, and it was beautiful. It was actually one of the first in-person ones that I got to witness, and seeing a lot of the men just open up for like being around new guys and still be able to just feel the energy and the love and presence there. I mean, first time I was there, I saw men just cry right in front of me. And so, yeah, it was a beautiful, profound moment. Yeah, Ronnie, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been doing lately?
Yeah, man. So appreciate the intro. Like I said, appreciate for having me on. So Ronnie Portillo, I guess things that I've been working on lately is just really learn how to ground myself in life that I'm picking. Um, Currently going through relationship changes as I'm navigating a divorce about 2 years ago and learning how to grieve in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
As I've also been getting into in the men's work. So I've been studying psychology now for about 6, 7, 8 years. Was a communication major, so I'm really good at I know communication, um, verbally speaking when I say communication skills. And then it's just turned into evolvation. I was a very, church focused man when I was younger, was really into church. But as I witnessed death, it kind of opened me up to different approaches to life and spirituality and different connections and just the internal knowing. So really what it all comes down to is learning how to be my framework has always been the decisive element of my life. How do I become the person that I need to become to live an abundant, loving, joyful life at the same time accepting that life is fucking crazy
Yeah.
and that life has its own tools and practices, its own paths for you, and really just learning how to step into that. What does it mean to be a father? What does it mean to be a man in today's society? And even if it doesn't really identify with society's talks about everything, who am I in this natural self of me? And that's really what I'm coming back to is who am I naturally? Who am I? The inner child work, if you want to talk about that. But it's just really who am I at a natural state when I'm not
Mm-hmm.
holding things that are not mine, when I'm not holding um, other people's opinions in my head. So really just tapping into who am I has been the work. Um, because I have two sons
Yeah.
and my one of my deepest wounds was abandonment wound. So
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted from my own father. So I just wanted to show up for my sons in a different way. And I lost my brother. So it was just like a real wide awakening. So in a nutshell, everything comes back to me living a truthful, authentic, joyful life. And how can I help other people deal with chaos and their desires in a way that confrontation we can grow from and not destroy ourselves from, because we have desires, we have wants, and we're going to have confrontation. And I think we just need to develop a maturity to be able to deal with those things in a responsible, mature way as men, going to be elder one day, right? So it's just like learning how to navigate those skills for me, myself, and my kids, so they
Wow.
don't go through the same things that I went through.
Yeah, man. Beautifully put. Yeah, and I mean, you hit on so much there, and you've been part of leadership for a while too, not just leading your sons, but also other men too. You're still in the military, I'm guessing,
Yes. So I've been
and
in the military for it'll be 17 years in July. So
wow,
yeah, I've been um I've been in leadership since I was, when did I get promoted? Like 2011.
wow,
So I've been in positions of leadership for the last 14 years,
yeah, and just
or
and
12
not
years ago.
even, but also with sacred sons too.
Yep, now with Sacred Sons, I'm stepping in more and more leadership there. So I just feel like it's called. That's what I'm meant to do. That's what people seem to gravitate towards me. It just seems to be a path. And, it used to be very critical for me. I would be very self-critical. But I would just
Mhm.
get the invitations to step in, and I would just feel the energy in me. Like your lady said, dude, I have lots of energy. So like when things are alive in me, that shit needs to come out.
Hell yeah.
um, so I just hold myself. I try to hold myself as a standard. I'm sick of seeing men in the way that we see that we live in this world, and we have to hold the ground. If we know what's right and what's tuned, I feel like we have to know hold the ground. But
Mm,
we have to do it in a way that brings authenticity, love, and joy, and like happiness throughout everybody, not just like power and
right.
control.
Yeah, so how's it been for you to approach men that are similar almost in age that have been coming into these struggles?
It's it's a dance, man. You know, I call a lot of this a dance. And so I love salsa dancing. I love bachata, like Hispanic. I'm Hispanic. And what
Mm,
I've realized is like, every relationship is a dance. So when men come into these circles, I know they're looking for something because I was them too,
right.
right? I didn't know men's work. I just started with Sacred Sons. First time I saw them was in December of 2020, and I went to my first
Okay.
retreat in January of 2021. Before then, like I was reading books. So I went to Afghanistan. It was all stuff. Basically, we're looking for something. You come to a men's work circle, you're looking for something,
Yeah, definitely.
right? That's like at the end of the day, something's wrong. They don't know what's going on. And how do we tap into that? And I think the open doors is just allowing, I think it just comes down to authenticity, man. Being honest with what's going on in our lives. We don't
Yeah,
have it figured out. I didn't have it figured out. And just being truthful with that, I don't have it figured out, and I'm here trying to figure it out. And it takes courage because they know you. I, what I've noticed is that most men are used to like Christian men circles or some
mhm,
type of religious circles.
right.
And I used to be part of those a lot too when I
Yeah,
was a Christian, when I was younger. And those were great. I just feel like when it comes to these circles, we get into the more of what's going on internally with us
mhm,
than what's actually like God's telling us or
right,
what the scripture says about how we should be. It's like
right,
I take that as those are like guiding paths, but we get into like what are you feeling right now and what needs to be seen and heard. And that takes courage from a lot of men because they're not used to that in the most of their lifetime.
right.
And that's what kind of got me in there. So at the end of the day, it's just like I feel like I can see the men because I was one of them.
Mm,
When my brother passed away, I remember having a specific moment when I knew why I got into men's work. It was because, or when I first went, I felt like the women in my life couldn't hold my pain. They
mm,
couldn't hold all the pain that was in me, all the rage that was in me. And then that's what got released at my first Sacred Sons event, where it was just like I felt like the men can hold me for all that I have,
right.
all the rage, all the pain, all the anger, all the hurt. My brothers can hold me.
Yeah,
And once I discovered that, then I was just like full in. So these brothers come, and just like you said, your first experience, they come, they're not sure, they're nervous. But once we all start sharing and once we all start connecting, like and being authentic, and you can tell when someone's being authentic, then they just kind of they get in it.
yeah,
They get into it step by step.
yeah, and I love that you touched on, with women, they have their own energies, and, how they hold space is different, and it's beautiful, but I touched on this before that there's something about being heard by the masculine, by men, that, is completely different. It's a recognition and also, um, knowing. It's a recognition and knowing of what you're going through. When I went through, my retreats with Ark of Brotherhood, it was crazy. People were like we did this one exercise where we're like, "Tell us your darkest secrets." It's like 60 men. We're in a circle, and people were like legit saying their darkest shit that they've
Yeah.
fucking done in life, and the people that were like, "Yeah," or the repeated secrets that people had was
Mm,
insane. It's just it and it's crazy because we have this stigma in our head that these secrets we hold on to, these are like painful for us because what the ego and the shadow likes to do is they like to take up this point in your body and tell you that you're fucked up, that you are the only one that has this secret,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you're alone in this, and that you're
Yeah.
fucked up because of it. But when you it's so powerful when you start hearing that men have the same shit. Like, it's fucking, like, secrets that you would be like, "No, I'm definitely alone in this." And then I hear 4
Yes.
other guys say the same shit in the same circle. It's 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 a recognition, like I said, and the knowing. It's because they've been there.
Yep.
And I've said this before too, that men, are so much alike down to their core.
Yes.
Abandonment wounds, unlovable wounds, it all comes back down to that. And so that's where that space that you touched on that is so important to be held, and that they have that space for it because they've been there and they understand you. And I think that's what is one of the, if not the most important thing about men's circles, is because they know, you know? And you can be you can be super open in your relationship with your woman and tell her, but to be that and she will hold space if she's a beautiful partner, but feeling like she knows is completely different, you know?
Yeah, there's a totally different, like, there's a reassurance that I'm not the only
Yeah.
one in here. We all going through the same shit. And that's one thing with the men's work. It's like the more I've been in the retreats, the more I've been in the circles, the more I've spent. It's like, yeah, it's exactly. We all have this coming from the same society. We all have similar uh, blocks and mental stigmas
Yeah.
and mental traps and all these things. So you put them through these one through steps. They're not steps, they become steps as you like. Once we get into our own healing journey, like myself, it's like now I can see where they're at so clearly. I can see the
Mhm.
flow, I can see the structure. And that's the biggest thing. And that's what I appreciate with Sacred Sons. One of their phrases is, you know brotherhood's the medicine. And it's like that's the reason why. It's one of the
Right.
reasons why is because I see you, I can
Yeah.
recognize you. And what I've witnessed too in circles is that sometimes they might not be the exact same thing, but dude, we can feel it
Right.
because we've experienced that maybe not as deeply, but in some level in different areas of our lives. So
Yeah.
it's like consistent mirrors. We're getting hit with mirrors that we didn't even know that were there until a man authentically released it. And
Mhm.
I call it the invisible dagger. That's one of my little phrases, right? It's this invisible dagger. It doesn't hit you until only the tip hits the heart and boom, right? And
Mhm.
that little tip turns into the well of the pain that's in there and all the programming that's come around. So I, we need men. Women need women.
Yeah.
Like, and it has to be that way. And it's always been that way. Our
Right.
current society of the way it because of our lifestyle and the buildings and all this, and it's beautiful, right? We should not neglect it. And there seems to be a thing that is missing, and I feel like those are the connections that we need to have. So, um, yeah, man, men's circles are the way to go. Like, I'm never getting out of one.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. And do you think that, this brought up another thought in my head that, I've noticed that as this last decade has, progressed, that men are actually further apart when it comes to just close friendships than they ever were before. It's really rare when a man has, like, more than 2 close friends when they
Yep,
start getting into their 30s, and I feel like that's part of the reason why men are hurting so much because of the feeling of being alone.
yep,
W Just feeling that exercise of, like, all these beautiful men sharing their secrets that, it was so powerful, but it was also so sad to see because you could tell that they were holding on to this pain because they felt alone and they never felt safe enough to share. Um,
yeah. I agree.
and
I feel like, sorry, keep you going.
no, yo, you go.
Yeah, I feel like what I've experienced in my own life is that, like, as I've been getting more in the men's work and as I'm getting older, I want to be part of people's lives,
Mm,
not just hit up and we go on a bar on a Friday night or we go on
right.
a hike on a Sunday morning. It's like, hey, if you need help with the garage, you need help building something in your house, you don't need to do it alone anymore. Freaking
Mm,
So I've been inviting my friends and more of my community, like, let's get more integrated, because that's what I feel like is an issue, is that people, and it's hard. I understand it's hard, right? Because if you have kids and a partner, there's obligations that need to come. But even then, I feel like something with the family unit is strong as hell. But when it's related with friends and other families and we're integrated, the community also helps us deal with life and deal with building something in the garage or all those different ways. So we always feel like we're alone. We have to go to work and we have to perform a certain standard. Then we come home and we have to hold a certain space. And we have kids, we have to do this. Well,
Mhm.
it feels good when you got your brothers there and you can do it with them,
Right.
right? And now it's like, yeah, when you, like you said, you get in your 30s and everyone has soccer practice or this going on. The kids are here, this is still going on. And obviously I don't know that answer how to do this in everybody's
Mhm.
life. All I know for myself is like I feel like there's one integration that's calling me,
Right.
that I want to be more part of my friends' lives. And I remember reading something, but it was just a beautiful reminder for me that don't take away the people's honor to show up for you,
Mm.
right? Like, we want to be there for the
Yeah.
people we love. And I think it goes back to like what you're saying on how the ego likes to take us that we're only one thinking this.
Mhm.
Like, it's they know, like, we all want to show up,
Right.
but you have to be able to willing to know we're not in each other's heads.
Right. Yeah, and that brings you to the space of just being open and vulnerable with
Yep.
other people in your life, and to the point of getting caught in life of what have you, the soccer practices, the job, dinner, it all that shit obviously takes time, but
Yep.
I notice that people use that as a reason not to focus on
Yes.
themselves,
Yes. Yes.
and
That's perfect. Yes.
which is the most important thing. If you take the time, just a short time, to fucking go and hang out with a guy, and I'm not saying go get some beers so that you
Mhm.
can numb and finally open up,
Yep.
because that's what a lot of guys like to do, but actually stay in a conscious, sober state with a man and talk to each other about the struggles that you've been going on in life and how you've been overcoming things. Um, that's medicine. And
Yes.
if you start healing that shit, and it's not even with other men too, but just taking the time for yourself, especially if you're a highly sensitive person, being able to just go out in nature, be like, I need this time, or go to the gym and focus consciously on being able to sit with yourself and heal yourself. Those soccer practices, those dinners you're making, all that shit's gonna be way more fun too.
Yes.
It's gonna be like, "Oh, I can't wait to be present with my partner. I can't wait to cook dinner and spend some time with my family." And I'm not saying that people aren't feeling this way, but there's a level of presence that comes with being able to heal yourself, and that medicine's needed so that you can just enjoy life.
I agree, man. And I think that's honestly, it's something I'm learning and going through right now as through my divorce process, and just grieving a relationship I was with for 14 years, or 13 years. I'm learning how much that I need the men's circle and I need the groups, but there's also times where I just need to be alone and I need to go in nature or I need to go to the gym, and really learning how to allow myself. It's been a journey to allow myself to be in there, because I think, as
Mm,
for myself, it was always the performance thing. I know I always need to be on, or I always need to be ready, and in those moments I'm not ready. I don't want to do the stuff. I want to just
right.
grieve. I need to yell. I need to go sit by myself. I need to cry in my car. I mean, honestly, last Friday I did that shit during soccer. My son was at football practice and I put my seat down and it had a song on that just dropped me in and I had my time. But
Mm,
then when I got, like you said, but when I got there, then I was able to be more present. Then
yeah.
I'm able to be there. And this reminds me of a book called The Smell of Dust on Rain. And the whole book is, I mean, from most of what I've read, I haven't read the whole thing, but the main points of what got is that you have to feel all the grief, because what that turns into, the way I like to look at it is like that's the nourishment of who you are,
Mm,
right? Plants, everything has to die at some level. So you grieving puts nourishment into the soil that is around you, which is the seed, right? So as you're able to grieve more, You're able to release all those nutrients into the ground that is you. And as that starts to settle and it starts to come, then what happens after that? A blooming is going to come. So then it allows you to feel better. It allows you to feel higher states of happiness, higher states of joy, higher states of grateful, and longer periods of time.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I learned from Sacred Sons when I had my first big process, I felt like a goddamn like a sink that got unplugged. I was
Mm.
reading all the books.
Yeah.
I was listening to all the podcasts. I was in good shape. I was doing
Right.
all the things that tell you to do better, right? To tell you
Mm-hmm.
to get better. But there was that level of grief that was just so in me from witnessing
Yeah.
my brother pass away
Mm.
and sorry, and going to war and all these things that when that moment came and I was able to release all that grief, dude, my life just took an exponential growth of joy and bliss and relaxation and peace. And I think it's, you know, I and so like I like to study natural laws too, like universal laws to seem to happen everywhere. And the first
Mm.
thing that came to mind right now, just like you unplug the emotional thing, it's the same thing as your digestive tract, right? If you got shit
Right.
in your digestive tract and you're not fasting a couple times a year or you don't clear out your system is not doing well to get everything done. Well, it's the same thing for our emotions. If we continue to hold our emotions and we continue to put all the weight and it just clams, why do you think we see so much stuff with men that are going on? Because they're so reactive. And the point that you made, they only let loose when they're drunk.
Right.
So it's like there's clearly things there that are tapped in there. You just don't know how to get to it without the right tools. So
Right.
after my process of releasing all that, I was able to have more bliss in life and joy. So I use that example because now I feel like what I try to do as much as I can is process on my own when it's alive in me.
Mm.
And I think it comes to our society standpoint that we're taught to always be on. We're taught that we always have to be ready. We're taught that we always have to carry on something else. And if we're not doing this, it's like we don't talk about rest enough. Everything on social media is about getting the hustle on. Well, it's like,
Right.
you know what? Even pro athletes who, I don't know if this is true or not, but it said LeBron James spends $1 million on his body every year, right? Massages, ice bath, all these things. You can't perform if you don't take time to rest and recover.
Right.
And that's part of the process. So we need to learn how to rest as men. We need to learn how to chill. Like you can still be a high achiever and take one full day off and do nothing.
Yeah.
And maybe cry for half an hour in there because allowing that cry to come out will allow so much more to come into your space. So I think it once you feel the full release of something, then the practice is on, like is what I've been taking on, is to do my own emotional practice or processes as it comes up for me so I don't continue to get blockages inside of my
Mm.
system.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's like beautifully said. I resonated with all of it, and especially the beginning portion of you were doing all the right things, gym,
Yep.
work, whatever you have, you hobbies, your partner, anything, kids, you felt like you were doing all the right things. The thing that I struggled with until I had that crazy breakthrough of that unplugging, like you said, is that I didn't realize I needed to be unplugged.
That's
You
so good.
know? They're like,
Yeah.
and that's what a lot of men go through. They don't know they have to be unplugged. And a lot of people gonna be listening to this, they're they feel that their life is on track, that they don't need to cry because they have nothing to be sad about. They don't need to be vulnerable with men because they're vulnerable enough. And that's what my train of thought was, that exact thing. I don't need to fucking cry. I'm not sad.
Mm,
But think about all the times you've negated your emotions,
yep.
especially because you were a man.
Yep.
Like, think back to all of those times that you wanted to cry and you didn't. Those emotions aren't gone.
Mm,
They're all still inside of you. That energy doesn't just dissipate. It stays inside of you. And it'll eventually get unplugged whether you like it or not, but it might not be in the healthy way. It might be going out drinking and you get into a bar fight. It
Yeah.
might be just freaking out on one of your friends or your loved ones just randomly because you're not it because that energy needs to come out, and you're not
Yeah.
giving it the space that it needs. And so this is something I've been really struggling with is how to get men to that realization that they need to release this. They need to release
Mm.
this thing that has been holding on to them, this sadness and this grief and this pain. Um, yeah, they need an outlet.
What comes up for me is that, and I think that's, we need to learn the natural cycles of life. Like I said, I like to study natural laws, and there's a reason there's a winter time, right? There's a
Right.
reason
Mm,
why winter comes. There's a reason why
yeah.
spring comes. And as human beings in our current society, because of our, our ingenuity and our advances in technology, that we forget that it's cold. Like in Vegas right now, it's windy as hell. You go outside, it's a totally different place right now. And because of these artificial things that we've made, well, I don't want to call them artificial because they're all natural because they're human, right? But like these external things that we've made that keep us safe from outside, we forget that we are also part of nature. So you can't always be on, right?
Right.
Even a TV show makes you cry. Like if you're not really I've realized too, the more that I've released emotions, like I'm so more easier to cry on movies and stuff. I listen to a song, I'm like, oh my God, I'm tearing up right now.
Yeah.
I'm a little freaking romantic that just cries all the time. Um, but I feel like it's a thing. If you're alive, there's gonna be grief in your life. The same book that I recognized earlier, like there's always a part of us that's grieving because always a part of you that knows that you're gonna die one day.
Mm,
There's a part that knows you're gonna die. There's a part of us that knows your parents are going to die. That we have kids. I have two kids. You just have second kids, right? Congrats. Like one day they're not gonna be kids.
yeah.
And I've been dealing with that as my 13-year-old is going to be 14 next week. And I remember the first when I took him to Sacred Sons, the youth program for the first time, like I started crying leaving
Mm,
because it's like I'm one, there's the father in me that's excited for him to be a man and I can walk with him in man in this world. And there's a part of me that's grieving because the baby is leaving
right.
and he's my baby. No matter how
Hmm.
old he gets, I still have this baby when he was there. I wiped his butt, all the things. So it's like there's it's funny, and dad mode right now, right? Like Inside Out, the movie Inside Out is like a
Mm,
perfect example. You get a lot of experiencers are not just one experience. They're not just always happy. They'll be happy for a while, but then later they're kind of sad because like, damn, that was a great time. I can't wait to have that again. And I think we don't acknowledge grieving enough in men. We don't acknowledge that things do bother us. And I think if we really tapped into that things do affect us more, things we have hormones just like women. We're not perfect every day,
yeah.
right? And maybe because it's more to the point and more extreme with them because of their moon cycles and their, that it enables it to see it faster and more relevant or more like in the face as men. But I feel like if we really acknowledged ourselves, we would know that I'm off today. And
Yeah.
maybe I need to call a friend and be like, hey, something's coming up with me. I just want to talk. Or maybe I just need a hug. But that hasn't been ingrained in us. It hasn't been taught to us. We come from a father's generation. A lot of people not father in the household that much,
Mm,
and that has given us a detachment from what men need from each other. We're always called we're always called to show up for women and children and to work and to make the lights turn on. And when the military is called to show up and be there all the time. But there's a reason why PTSD has blown up the tracks. There's a reason why ADHD is blown up the track. It's not just some random things that happen. Like there's literally some cultural, instructional things that are causing these things to happen. And I think it just comes back to connection.
yeah.
Everything comes back to connection on how are we not talking to each other? What are we not acknowledging each other? So full circle, it's natural laws that you're gonna be happy sometimes and you're gonna be sad sometimes. And we need to be okay with what is, because that
Right.
is what is.
Yeah.
And we can't exchange that. And it's just like, I think of men as they get older. They want to take testosterone even if they don't need testosterone replacement. They want to take things to feel young. Um, and those are all great. And, if you need them on an individual basis, fine, but they shouldn't be the collective standpoint on what we identify as men, when really what we want is community to show up. And let's box every once in a while to get your testosterone up, right? Because we
Yeah.
we like to be wrestled. We need healthy ways of aggression. We
Hmm.
need healthy ways of aggression. We need um, healthy ways of connection, not just drinking at the bar. You want to fight, and then let's go fight. Put some gloves on and do it the right way with honor. And I guess that point just comes up to me. We've lost, in some sense, what honor feels like
Mm,
for each other.
yeah.
What does it mean to like be honorable? Like I said earlier, I want to show up because you honor me by asking me to come help. Um, honor is a feeling. Honor is a way of being. It's not just a word to describe something. Like honor is a verb, just like love is a verb, they say, right? But honor is how we show up for each other. And I think one of those ways is allowing us to show up for each other when we're not doing well. I know it's a lot, bro. You got two little babies right now, and you got a woman who's done. Like I know it's a lot. No matter, and anyone who's been through it can acknowledge that, right? So I think it's on us to really take those things and like say what life is. It's not the Instagram beautiful picture all the time. Like life is made in the mundane.
Mm,
It's made in the
mm,
boring things,
yeah.
and those are the critical moments, not the vacations, not all the other stuff. And learning how to show up for each other as men is like I mean, I'm just super passionate about it now because
Yeah.
I just feel what it's done for me.
Yeah.
And and you can't convince me otherwise. And if
Right.
I look at a man and if I look at a man, he says I'm good to go, and I see it, I'll examine his life. Then where is he getting the connection from? Because I know it's in you. You
Mm,
need it. I'm a man. You're all men. The natural laws. We all need connection. We all need species. Studying psychology so much, right? I study human beings as an animal. That's what That's what it is. We know you put a human being in this type of environment, this type of things could happen. So there are baselines that we have to start at to be able to understand and develop. And I think that's what I'm doing my best to do with my sons is like, hey,
mm,
let's check into each other right now. Being separated now with their mother, when they come to my house, hey, let's check in. Let's bring back our energy again. We have to sync up again. We have to come together again. And then little by little, we start to form that tribe and start form those things. And I don't think enough people have the understanding that they're not machines. They can't go from 1 to 10 every time, and giving them space to be that. It's okay. We're human beings.
yeah. Man, that's beautifully said, man. Yeah, I think the thing that stuck out for me the most is that recognition of being okay with just sitting in sadness or just rest. If a lot of men, if they don't know why, like, man, I'm having a fucking bad day, but they feel like they don't know why, so there shouldn't be a reason why they have a bad day. So
Yes.
they go about their normal day instead of giving whatever that is space to come up. And I said this on my last video. A lot of times I got stuck in a lot of childhood programs because one of my biggest wounds was an abandonment wound that I was able to work through. And obviously, that wound's still in me very deeply.
Yeah.
But I was able to push through and heal a portion of of myself. And now, when sadness comes up, I sometimes feel like I need to name it and go down and figure out what age am I? What am I fe- what age am I that I
Mm,
felt this sadness? And I've like lost myself in that.
mm,
And now I'm, even though that's a beautiful thing and it sometimes brings me to it, but now I'm not forcing it. Sometimes I just feel that sadness and I'm like, okay, I just need to sit with this. I don't need to name it. I just need to sit with this because this is what my body needs from me right now.
yeah.
And but a lot of men are just on that go, just that fucking fast track go go go. And if something in your body tells you, man, you need to slow down, like you need to rest or you need to cry, we don't want to hear that shit. you know a lot of times men just are like, fuck that. I don't know why this is coming up, I
Yeah.
just need to keep going. Yeah.
I never thought of it that way in like the sense of the age. Like, where age am I at right now to feel that? And I feel like that's a great thing um, that I might use once if it comes up for me, because I feel like I'm getting really good at just allowing my sadness to come. And the way I've looked at it is like there's a well somewhere in me, and the well is that grief, and it's like the shadow or there's hurt, the abandonment wounds that I need to tap into that, because what I've experienced of once that pocket of emotion gets released, and it's able to, grace and happiness and other things are able to come into that space. Um, but I never thought about the age, and what else comes up for me is that it's uncomfortable,
Fuck yeah, it's uncomfortable.
right? It doesn't
Yeah.
fucking feel good, man. I was
No.
crying on the goddamn side of the car during my son's football practice, listening to a music, put my chair back so I can just like not worry about people looking at me, and I can just like really just go in. And one thing that I realized when I first got separated and doing the work, it's like, how does the masculine and feminine play into that role? And it gave me a visualization to help me feel safer within inside myself, because I think it's a fear for people, I would say for everybody,
Mhm.
but we could speak just for men, to really allow them to go into that sadness or craziness,
Yeah.
right? Because what most men identify women when they're going through their, menstrual or their whatever they're going through in those moments as they're crazy. And it's like literally it's just their emotions that need to be expressed, and we need to hold the
Right.
container for them, right?
Yeah.
Most of the time the answer is not us. The answer is just be there for them. How can I support you?
Right.
Well, I took that and took it inside to myself. And showers, I love showers. Those are my little space where like I can just like let it all out. And I remember I was having a moment where I turned it into a container, man. I remember thinking is that my masculine is holding the space for my feminine right now, and I need to let this shit out. And I'm not crazy for crying. I'm not crazy for doing the the
Right.
deep cries. I'm not crazy for screaming if I need to scream. I'm not crazy for staying in a child's pose or cuddle up in a ball on the floor. I just need that time. But the
Mm.
masculine part of me, the warrior in me, the one that can't get up right now if there's a bomb exploded right now, like he can hold that for me too inside.
Right.
And learning how to take that into a mental construct and allow my imagination to be used in my hurt, also in my grief, allowed me to feel more safe, because we hear so much mental health issues now, or suicide. It's like, I think that's a tool that they don't know that they have. Like, it's like it's
Right.
okay to go crazy.
Yeah.
It's okay to be in your room and beat the pillow for a while. Like, these are good excessive exercises that get those excessive anger and excessive hurt away. But because we want to classify ourselves are crazy, or we classify ourselves are emotional, there's all these stigmas with these different things. We don't allow ourselves to get in it. And I say, fuck that,
Yeah.
right? Like, that is me doing the internal work by
Mm.
myself. I need my brothers, but like I can't depend on them. Conversation we had before. Like, I can't depend on them at 2 a.m. in the morning
Right.
all the time. Like, yeah, I can call them, and there's moments like that, but sooner or later, like, you have to hold your own line too,
Yeah.
right? And there's a dance between the individual and the collective, but you need to hold your own line as men. You need to, own it,
Yeah.
own it. And I was
Yeah.
gonna say man up, but it's not man up, because it's not about being a man. It's really, and that's programming, right? It's a word,
Right.
man up. It's really about owning your shit,
Right. Well, we need
owning
to
all.
redefine what man is too.
Exactly, right? And
Yeah.
I think this is what I'm, I guess, redefining it as, like, own your own shit. There's
Yeah.
a reason you got here. There's a reason why you're here. And there's a reason these synchronicities of events have happened, unfold. And yeah, some of them are life, but a lot of them I'm sure are on you too.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, one of the reasons that men, one, they probably don't want to come to men's circles because they think it's this woo-woo hippie shit. And then two, I think there's a deeper reason. If you come, you're going to know you're going to face some shit.
Yeah.
And we're so quick to jump into an ice bath, bro. Right? We're so quick. We're so quick to get into the boxing ring. We're so
Right.
quick to do the adrenaline shit that looks cool from the outside. Right?
Mhm.
But it's like, can you sit in your own emotions with the understanding that maybe you did something to get here? Or even if you didn't and someone just broke your heart, like, can you sit in that space? And I always try to tie this around with people because I don't think they think of it in that way. The ice bath, those are great practices. And yes, it does great things for your body. But those are also practices for you to hold your own stuff when
Exactly.
you're having an argument with your wife,
Mm,
when your boss is coming at you this way, when you're tired and your 2-year-old's waking up at 3 in the morning. Like, these are practices for those delicate moments where they're just not about you.
right.
Because when a man yells, people listen,
Right.
right? But we only do it for external or body reasons. It's like, no, these are emotional intelligent tools. These are ways that you can practice on yourself, because when you're getting hit in the head, there's no difference between you getting hit in the face and your lady, your partner, or whoever it is, your partner hits you with some truth bomb that you feel.
Right.
How can you take that?
Mm,
Because most of the time when when they hear that, they're going to get defensive right away. Well, you're
yeah.
not defensive and you're not yelling at the goddamn ice.
Right.
But you signed up for the relationship. You signed up to be there. You signed up to be a parent because you had a kid. And those are the moments where you need to do it. So do all the ice bath, do all the things that you want. Cool. But if they're not improving your regulation, emotion regulation in real life, the deepest shit that matters,
Mm,
then you're not using it correctly, in my
yeah.
standpoint.
No, I love that. And I'm glad you said that too, because as much as we love men's group, you have to realize that it is another tool, like an ice bath, to be able to take with you and make yourself whole so that you can bring it into your life and you can sit with yourself and you can use the shit that it brought up and the practices that it brought up for you, and you can reflect it in your personal life around the people that are around you 24/7, your loved ones.
Yep.
um, Ice baths are great tools, not just for your physical health, but they're a mental health thing too. They're supposed to be there to allow you to feel like you can take your breaths and sit with the uncomfortable. You know,
Yep.
that's the importance of ice baths, is to give you that space of like feeling uncomfortable and being able to sit in it
Yep.
and not be reactive and not be like, oh fuck, this is cold, I'm getting the fuck out of here. Sitting
Yep.
in because there's going to be so much fucking uncomfortable shit in your life that
Yep.
you need to sit in, and you can't be just super reactive and run away. You know, you need to sit in it, you need to hold the space for it, and you need to realize this is for you, you know.
Yep. And
And
those are those moments are the critical moments where it's
right.
either, it's either growth is going to come from it or destruction is going to come from it. It's either one way.
Yeah.
And how we react in those moments can hurt, all the type of ways. Hurt
Yeah.
our relationships in so many ways, including ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. And another aspect is to of it is not allowing it to be your new identity. And we touched on
Mm.
this a little bit before we started
Yep.
recording this podcast, but using these bases of breath work, yoga classes, ice baths, men's work, all of that shit is supposed to be a tool to go deeper in yourself, to be able to
Yes.
understand yourself and then improve yourself and become integrated with your soul. Drop the walls, drop the shadow, stop projecting, and come out to be your true self and open up your heart. All of that shit is supposed to be tools to open your heart. And the problem is, a lot of people feel like because they let out this emotion or that they felt this first sign of truth, that this is the one and only truth. And I was born and raised Christian, and I was raised in the church. And I feel like this is why a lot of people are still in the church, is because it's the first time that people have got into spirituality. And there is a truth to that, you know, there is a
Yes.
God.
Yep.
And because if it was the first sign of truth, just like it's the first sign of truth for a lot of people coming into men's work, they hold it into their identity instead of
Yep.
realizing the bigger picture that they are God. They need to connect to themselves, you know, and they
Yep.
need to become whole for themselves.
Yep.
And yeah, that's been like my biggest issue. I've seen just people holding identities and clinging on to things that aren't supposed to be clinged on to.
Yeah, they use the tool and then they want to be the master of it right
Right.
away. And then they get this certification or they get this thing and then they want to hold space right away. And it's like, no, this shit takes time.
Mm,
It takes time. And I appreciate what you said. Like, there's part of you that got it. And I feel like what I've learned is that once you tap into really use these tools, you tap in, it seems the world dances with you too, because all of a
definitely.
sudden you get invitations from here. You get people reaching out to here. You don't have to force to become what you are.
Mm,
The more that you tap into who you are, the becoming starts to unfold and you start changing decisions. And because of those decisions, then you start doing different things and then you meet different people and then you meet different spaces. But you can't just do one breath work and then you want to do everything. It's like it takes time for these to fold. But like you said, I think it's because we don't have a sense of ourselves already,
right.
right? We don't have a sense of ourselves because we've been told to go to college. We've been told to do all these things. We've been told, where we're not teaching our kids to tap into what they really like, what they really want. And we don't provide an environment for them that enables them to figure it out. Like childhood is to, you know, I always think about it like 300 years ago, if your family was a farmer, you were a family. If your dad was an engineer, you're an engineer. It just fell in
Yeah.
that line frame, right?
Mm,
Now it's abundance. Now we can do whatever the hell you want.
right.
So I feel like as a parent, what I try to do is give my sons the most experience. Let's touch everything. What really draws on you. And then once I see them flare up, and once I see um their energy peak, then say, okay, let's start pulling on that thread a little bit more.
Mm,
Let's start going
yeah.
this way, right? And I think that's what starts happening with individuals ourselves is we get these practices and then we fall in love with them and then we want to
Mm,
share them. And
right.
these are this I feel like, we spoke earlier also. It's like these are the beginning stages of healing.
Yeah.
Because you identify so much that this helped you so much. Now you want to
Right.
give it out to the world.
Yeah.
And it's yes, give it out to the world and share your experiences. And let's do it from a grounded place. One thing I
Right.
really appreciate about Sacred Sons is like the new leaders coming in, you can't lead from a place of excitement,
Right.
right? You have to know you've already been here.
Mm,
You're grounded in yourself.
mm,
You're grounded in the process. You know what to have, what's going on, these next things. You can see the men, you can see how this unfolds. Because if you're always excited to do it, then this work has become, once again, I'm a firm believer now that like it's the mundane that makes life unfold. It's the things that you don't think about. No one
right.
talks about who invented the spoon, but we all use a spoon every day, right? No one
Yeah.
talks about all these basic things, the concrete that we walk on every day. You take your truck and you go off road for a while and then you drive on the dang cement. It's like, thank God for roads. you know, it's it's the mundane that makes our life go round and
Right.
round and round.
Mm,
And our being able to tap into that really comes down to who are we? Because
right.
we like life to be exciting all the time,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
that is not what life is. And
Right.
I mean, it is exciting all the time. I'm not saying it's not, but it could be if you're literally living what you naturally want to do.
Right. For sure. And the thing is, like, I love that you talked about this because this is what I sat with. I just got back from a Ark of Brotherhood retreat that was like a week and a half ago in Canada. And I noticed that a lot of men that have started to connect with themselves, what instantly comes up with for them is they want to be of service. They
Yes.
want to be of service to the collective. They want to be there for others. And the problem is their first thing that comes to their head, which isn't a problem, it's a beautiful thing, but it doesn't have to be the answer for everything, is that they wanna be a life coach, you know? The only way that they can feel like they can
Everyone
be
wants to
of
be a life
s
coach.
the only way they can feel like they can be of service to others is by being a life coach. And life coaches obviously are there and they do beautiful things, but you don't realize, like you said, that you pouring concrete, that's of service. You are providing a beautiful thing to allow people to drive on fucking smooth roads so we're not going on our suspended ass trucks and having
Yeah.
back problems after fucking going
Yeah.
off-roading for an hour, you know? It's being chefs, cooking beautiful food that people can enjoy. It's doing all of these things are ways of service, and it doesn't have to, but the only thing that people think about is that they have to be directly servicing another person.
And I appreciate you bringing that up. We need conscious, healed cooks and military
Yes.
and police officers and teachers and
Yeah.
politicians. It's like what everyone just gets healed a little bit and wants to be a life coach. It's like, okay, but what about the school system?
Right.
Everyone wants, not everyone can be a life coach and make $100,000 a year living everywhere, being a nomad everywhere they want to go.
Mm. Yeah.
Right? It's like we need people in the normal society, and that, I'm not saying that it's normal side, but like the rotation of everything. We need the
Right.
firefighters, we need the teachers, we need the mechanics, we need everyone to be on this space, because all these the IRS, let's figure out the taxes, let's figure out, because the reason, I mean, I to get grandiose here, I feel like the reason why we don't have things more figured out is because everyone's in their own shit.
Yeah.
And when you're in your own shit, it's hard to fully engage in other problems that are outside of you.
Right. For sure. How
So
are you
like,
supposed to give like how are you supposed to give presence and answers when you don't even know the answer for yourself, you know?
exactly. So like, people have been teaching maybe for 20 years. I used to be, well, I'm a recruiter in the military. I don't do the recruiting anymore. I have a team. But it would be such a difference when I would go into a high school and I would see the difference between one teacher and another teacher.
Mm.
It's like you can see who the teachers are there, who are like called to be a teacher,
Right.
that like they're engaged in being a
Mm.
teacher. And then you can see the ones that are doing the 6 to 2,
Right.
right? And I'm
Yeah.
sure we can classify that in every industry and every company,
For
but it's
sure.
like we have to be engaged. And if you're not really there and all in for whatever reason, look, I'll be honest, it was not my always choice to be in the military for this long, but I had kids young, and my fatherhood comes before myself. So
Right.
this is the path that I've been on now. So I'm here following through for my children. And it helps me too. But the
Mhm.
standpoint is stability and flexibility in my schedule to
Right.
be there for my kids.
Yeah.
So I understand now, but I'm engaged. I participate. Let's make the system better. The systems are in place. We don't need to redo the wheel. We just need to actually engage in trying to fix the real problems. But
Right.
what I've found is people don't engage, and they don't engage typically because their own household is not good.
Yeah.
Their own life is not good. So it's like we have to get people to be inspired to
Mhm.
want to fix themselves and heal. Not, I don't want to say fix themselves, just be more in touch with themselves. We're always going to
Yeah.
go through stuff. We're always going to be messed up. But can we be honest about that? Can we
Right.
have integrity about that? And
Mm.
can we engage?
Yeah.
Engagement.
Yeah. I mean, I can talk on my personal experience. I'm an engineer and I didn't love my job at all, you know? I did it because of the money and because I knew it was gonna give me some sort of lifestyle. But when I was able to start going in and healing, how much more I enjoy my job now
Yeah.
as an engineer is fucking amazing. I would never think that I would be like, "Man, I can't fucking wait to start on this project. I can't." And it's reflected too. My bosses have seen it. I've got raises, I've got abundance that I never thought I would get before because of this new found like purpose in myself, you know? It's reflected outward into my career.
The
And
same.
yeah, it's the same, and I think about, man, I think about, like you were saying, the chefs, the politicians, the police. If you had just a way of consciousness and a way of understanding yourself and healing, could you imagine what kind of world the collective would be if everybody was bringing that into their
It'd be
life?
amazing, bro.
Yeah,
It would be
it would
amazing. We'll have fights and we'll have arguments, but they would go somewhere,
right,
right? They would have they would have damn, they would have endings that would grow. They would have definitions. They would have, because everything you said, I agree with and experience the same thing. Like
mm,
I made, I'm a master sergeant in the army. It typically takes 18 years, 19 years for people to get it. I made it at 15 and a half, like
mm,
every time. And it's because of the same reasons, at least from my perspective. I'm sure everyone else feels, but I was engaged. I'm happy to be here. I'm fully, the way I look at it is, it's like, this is helping me for next later in my life too. Like, how can I fully be engaged? If I'm here,
right,
how can I be of service and actually use this as a benefit. If I don't want to be
Mhm.
here and I don't like seeing progress, then what am I doing?
Right.
And I'm giving myself a slow drip of poison then.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's, and it's my own decision doing that.
You can't fake that shit either, too. You can't hear
No,
it. You can't, if you're listening to this, you can't hear this and be like, all right, I'm going into work. I'm going to be fucking happy. I'm going to be enthusiastic. I'm going to be present. You can't just fake that. You can't just
no.
say that shit. You have to actually feel in, and the nice thing is when you sit with yourself and you feel in and you start healing, it will come naturally. Like, I didn't
It
try
does.
to be better at my job.
Yeah.
It just came, you know, because I was able to start fucking shedding the layers that was
And it's
holding
your
me
belief
back.
system. It's your
Yeah.
belief system. You're like, if you can figure it out for yourself, I'm gonna heal myself, or I'm going to see what's wrong and actually look in the mirror. It's going to ripple in every part of your lives.
Mm,
Yeah, America loves saying that, separate church and state. I've studied psychology enough in my own experience myself. You can't separate yourself.
right.
There's no separating your
Yeah.
beliefs.
Yeah.
You're going to show up the way. And one of the one things that I try to hardwire in my own belief was like, show up the best you can in every situation. So if I'm there, then how can I show up as best as I can?
Mm,
Because we what I've seen is that people don't think their work life affects their personal life and
mm.
vice versa, right? And
Yeah.
they do.
Yeah.
And they do. Every part of
How
your
can they
life
not? Yeah.
exactly. Every part of your life affects every part of your life. But we
Right.
try to hide I think it's hiding, man. We don't want to see what's real there. We don't
Yeah.
want to acknowledge that sometimes we're nasty, freaky creatures that do crazy shit. And all the shadows, like we have to acknowledge that there's a shadow in us, period.
Mhm.
One thing I've experienced in some men is that they're against fighting.
Right.
They're against conflict. The men have done enough conflict in the world. Yes.
Right.
And who do you think stops other men from doing more conflict?
Right.
Other men.
Yeah.
So it's like these bodies are not just here to like do whatever you want to do with it. It's like they're here for a reason too. Women don't have these body features. Children don't have this. Well, who protects them? It's men are the ones who go to war, not women all the time.
Yeah.
So it's like there's reasons for these things, and we have to get past what we think a human being is and just really accept what a human being is. And
Yeah.
I think that's just a big cultural conversation that we're having right now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think it's just endless, you know?
Yeah,
And
there's a
it,
lot there.
like you said, that the conflict, it's I again, another exercise I've been with a group of 60 men, we got told, let's split up the room. How many men have been in a physical altercation? How many men haven't? And it was about a 50-50 split. And then the men that haven't been in a physical altercation, they were like, there's enough violence in the world. Yes. And the men that have, they were coming through a lot of woundedness, and they were coming through
Mhm.
a lot of pain that were reflecting on others. The best way to think about this, I've heard this quote, it's better to be a samurai in a
Yep.
garden than a gardener on the battlefield. And it's essentially saying you need to be able to be able to afflict
Yes.
conflict, but be able to hold in that in your strength, and not be able to, and not come through woundedness, but be able to have that understanding that I can hurt somebody. And that also gives you a point of, if men come at you, you have that, that you're not faking anything. You're not coming through this falsity of yourself because you think that you might get hurt, you know?
Yep.
A lot of men sacrifice what they really truly believe because they don't want that conflict.
Yep.
And I'm not saying it has to be physical. I'm just saying that you have to be grounded in yourself and hold yourself to an accountability and integrity to be able to stand in your truth.
And
That's
like
what I'm
what you
coming
said,
at.
yeah, and I think that's the standpoint. What you said right now is the groundedness. I think a lot of men who think that they don't need to learn how to be confrontational a little bit, they don't understand the confidence and the groundedness that comes from knowing that I can protect myself. That I
Mm,
like at least I can do a good minute to get the hell out
right.
or whatever it is. there is a groundedness that comes in with the physical body. You know, Socrates says, what do you say? There's a man who has never experienced his top physical fitness. I forgot the exact quote, but a man who hasn't discovered his physical fitness is like a shame. You should what is the strength of your body?
Mm.
There comes a groundedness and a centeredness, knowing that you can protect yourself, even if it's just a basic 1, 2, 3, 4 punch. You know, a year of jiu-jitsu, something to just really get yourself grounded there, because now you know how to react. So you'll know how to maneuver in the world a little bit better. You'll be confident, and it's a thing that you can't shake.
Right.
Like it's not something that you can give away. Once it's there, it's there. Like I know I can show up. I know I
Right.
can do this right now. You want to go? I don't want to fight. I don't want to get
Yeah.
punched in the goddamn nose, right? But punch me one time, the animal starts to fucking wake up. And
Right.
Jordan Peterson says this, right? It's better to be it's the same type of thing. It's like you got to be a monster,
Yeah.
but you got to be a gentle monster.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing with men. It's we we you know, before it said everyone needed to be a tough guy, and it was a tough guy thing.
Mhm.
And now I feel like the spectrum's gone to the whole opposite side, where everyone
Right.
needs to be men needs to be soft.
Yeah.
It's like you need to soft and talk to this and that. It's like really there's a balance between the both, and it's not a switch. It's a dial. When do
Right.
you need to be assertive? When do you need to be aggressive? When do you need
Right.
to be these things? And what does the situation call for? Because it's not just I'm mad and then I get to switch on and I see red. No,
Right.
it's like in the military, rules of engagement. That's what we call it in the military. If this happens, you have to do these procedures to get there. Rules of engagement. What is the best situation, the minimum threat, the minimum, the minimum damage to get the objective done. And I think we need to be able to do that in our lives personally. It's like, how do you diffuse situations? These situations only come up in those time frames, and you have to
Mhm.
and you have to do them when they come. Like, and what I'm saying by that is like experience is what matters in those moments. You have to
Yeah.
experience them. And that's why, like, back to the ice baths and things, like those are great things to experience what it feels like to be in uncomfortable situations,
Right.
to do all these different, whatever retreat, whatever the mirrors, whatever open vulnerability, they're all there to give you the tools to come inside yourself so that you can go back home and love on the people you love most. Because
Right.
it's cool in the circle, but if you ain't taking care of your mama, you ain't talking to your dad, or you just left them shit on the side frame, then I don't care. Why are you doing the work? You're telling me you're
Right.
doing the work, but you're not doing the work. You're only
Yeah.
showing that you're doing the work, and that's your ego inflating that you're part of this group or you're part of that
Mm.
group and you're in this brotherhood now and you're doing this. Nah,
Yes.
if you're not trying to have better conversations with your parents, you're not trying to have better conversations with your partner or your relationship with your kids or work, then you're not doing the real work. That's the
Right.
real work. Everything else is training to when you're in your regular life, how this unfolds.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautifully said, man. Yeah. Fucking spiritual bypassing at its finest.
It is. That's what it is,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, thanks, Ronnie. I think we're here at the end mark,
An
but
hour. Yep.
yeah, I appreciate you coming on. This has been a beautiful conversation. I'm sure we'll have many more in the future.
Yeah, I'm down, man. Well, I appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thanks for having this time, man. So grateful for it.
Yeah, definitely.